Yeah. Hi, welcome to the Digital Futures Podcast. I'm Daniel Downs, here with Natalie Piero, who is an educator, translator, and language access consultant. Thank you, Natalia, for joining me again. It's great to have
Hi.
you. Hi. No, it's great to have you back. We're going to do a couple kind of loose, non-educational, get-to-know-you questions. I think that will kind of help break our ice a little bit before we get into the education stuff. But Natalia is very informed on language access, worked as an educator, a translator, and it's great to have her on the podcast. And today we're going to go into a little deep dive onto some global education issues, some language topics, some EdTech topics, and so just thank you for joining us. So, Natalia, let me find a good question for you. Can you describe a project or achievement you're particularly proud of?
Well, this is an achievement. I mean, being in a podcast is an achievement because I'm really shy and an introvert. So this is an achievement for me. And a project is when I started preparing for exams, students for exams, particularly during the pandemic, that I had to take. I mean, all my classes were overnight. They were online. So I had to find tools and ways to engage my students, prepare them for important exams, and especially at a very, very high level, like advanced students. And they did very well. The outcome was great. I was pleasantly surprised that I was able to prepare them. I thought it was impossible, but I was able to prepare them through online classes. So yeah, that's a project I'm very, very proud of.
Yeah. I might ask a third question. That's a little work related. I'll try to.
Sure. Shall I go now?
No. Let me go through yours. Let me get you. Then you can tease me out all in too. What's your go-to comfort food or guilty pleasure snack?
I have a sweet tooth. So, and I am from Argentina. I don't know if you mentioned that. Did you mention that at the beginning?
Oh, not yet. She is from Argentina.
I am from Argentina.
Yeah.
And we are very fond of dulce de leche. I don't know if you tried it. Did you try it when you were
here? I think I have. That's like the sweet cake, right, with the layers?
Yeah, it's like a sweet caramel thing. Yes. We put it everywhere. It's delicious. It's a temptation to me. And I don't know if it's comfort food or what, but it's definitely a guilty pleasure. Mm-hmm. And alfajores and things like that, which I've been to the US many times and I just can't understand why it's not a thing. Like dulce de leche and alfajores is not a thing. I don't get it. Maybe it's a cultural thing.
I think it's the level of sugar. We put too much sugar in our food. And so what happens is like we lose our natural ability to taste sugar. That's not like we're given so much sugar that by the time like everything, there's just so much sugar in our food and our sweets are so sweet, we lose our taste buds. So when someone gives us something really good that is like a subtle, sweet, really nice cake, like if you don't know how to appreciate it, you can't. I think our taste buds are like numb from like corporate candy.
Right. And medialunas too. Medialunas and anything with dulce de leche. Medialunas, which are not a thing in the US also. Big, big mistake. But
we have a lot.
I was medialunas, churros are like the comfort food to go with mate.
Mm. And mate is something definitely Americans should try too. Like we haven't,
Wow.
you don't see it much at all.
Wow.
But you all love it. You love it in Argentina. Yeah, every corner.
I have it here. I mean,
it's a lifestyle.
It's rare that you find. It's rare that an Argentinian is working at home without their mate by them. It's very rare. If you find them that they are not doing it, it's rare.
And for people who don't know, there probably will be people who see this who don't even know what mate is. Do you want to give them the definition? Like, there will be people who don't know because, like, I'll be honest, I didn't really know prior to going to Argentina. Describe your mate experience. It's basically like a tea. You pour hot water over it. It's herbs, like packaged. How do you prepare it?
It's like like you put the yerba mate, right, into the mate. And then some people add sweetener or sugar. I don't. I believe the real mate is unsweetened, amargo, as we call it, bitter. And then you just pour water. And usually it's shared, which during the pandemic was crazy because we couldn't share it. Because we share it, it's like the same straw, and obviously we couldn't. So it was a whole. Our cultural, drink was just for ourselves. We couldn't share it, which was crazy. But it's usually shared.
Yeah. Now, what is the belief like? I'm sorry.
We drink it even if it's hot.
Even if it's hot.
Really hot, we drink it. We don't. There's cold or iced ways to do it, but we drink it even if it's really hot outside.
And like, just so people know who just drink tea, like they keep pouring water over it. You keep drinking the same. You'll add water over the top of it, and then keep.
Right.
That's the thing. But I saw the vice president speak, and I was watching this one person, and I was just kind of surprised. Like they were, literally a thermos full of water over one amount of mate, like over and over and over and over.
Yeah.
Like, oh, all right.
Until you run out. Yeah.
And what's the belief of why is it so popular? Other than being just like a national drink. Now, is there a belief that it gives energy or it has like an energetic effect?
Oh, yeah. It does. And to me, it's like, when I'm alone, it's like companionship. It's weird, but I feel I'm not alone when I'm drinking mates, if that makes sense. And when you are in a group of people or with your family members, it's like sharing experience, and we really like that. We get together a lot. We are, we like our families, our friends get together. So I guess it makes a lot of sense. If you see football players, for example, if you see Messi there in the US, he's always carrying his mate everywhere. It's like the attachment to Argentina, I guess. It makes you like you're not alone.
Yeah, that's a good. I'm glad we talked mate. What I tried the Rosatone mate. What type of mate? Do you have like a favorite type that you buy or you get? Where do you get your mate? Where do you buy your mate?
Like the herbs?
Yeah. Like the grocery store?
I just buy one. There are so many brands. I just buy whatever I can find or whatever's on sale or whatever. I'm not, as long as it's not sweetened, it's okay. Sometimes they sweeten the yerba, and that's not good.
I just know, I didn't know anything about it, and then I learned. So, and it's like tea. It's like gray in color. Just trying to describe it, like gray, and it's like a tea without a bag, and you just pour hot water over it, and as it, the flavor kind of comes up out of the herbs. All right.
Yeah.
That was good. That was good.
I know it's weird.
No. It's cool. And it's got a good scent. It smells good. It's like unique.
Some people like it.
Yeah. I thought it's like unique. It's like not
Yes.
a bad scent. It's like a different kind of tea scent.
Yeah, you gotta get used to it at the beginning.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right. One more for you, and then you can drive me crazy. I guess what hobbies or activities do you enjoy in your free time?
Free time. Define free time. Well,
yeah.
I don't have much free time. I'm a mom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like reading, or I used to like reading when I had free time. Yeah,
Okay.
I love reading. I love it, and I hope my kid loves reading too. I was the other day. I'm also into child development and how we can better prepare kids for the future. And I read it was on Instagram, and that like the single thing there's one thing you can do, and that is going to have a huge impact on your child's future, and that is read to them. Read to them, like even when they are babies, reading to them. And developing that love for reading, and they see you reading, and they want to read, and they grab their books, and yeah. Now that there's technology everywhere, and social media, and like not forgetting about the importance of reading. I believe reading is what got me into a very high level of English. If I'm being honest, when I started reading in English, my English proficiency went up. I mean, that's how I learned. Not from actual teachers. Yeah, not teachers. So that's why I encourage my students to read.
Okay.
Because they can learn
so quickly.
They don't need they need guidance from the teacher, but they can learn so much by just reading.
And I would say that would go along with. There's a question here about. How do you balance work and personal life to ensure a sense of well-being? And I would say you probably answer that the same way. Reading.
That's hard.
Okay.
Can you?
I don't know.
Like work balance. I'm kind of a workaholic. That's a problem that I get obsessed with things. When when something is in my mind, sometimes I can't even sleep because I'm thinking. So I really struggle with that.
That's not such a bad thing.
And the fact that I'm working. Well, I don't know. I don't know.
No, I'm a workaholic too. I like to work. I'm the same way. And I was listening to a podcast this past week where someone talked about being a workaholic, and things take time. Like I think sometimes people underappreciate like becoming good at something or knowing about something. Like if you really have an understanding of what it takes to ever be good at anything, like it's going to take you time to learn more about language or learn about another topic, and sometimes it just takes but if you like to do it, it's a lot easier. So that's
and then there's the balance.
Yeah.
Like
and
not
as long as the
track of
right, and as long as the balance isn't dependent on you having a certain level of success with the knowledge, like I feel like you can throw yourself into a topic really expecting a certain end goal at a certain amount of time, and if you don't get that, then you're kind of like out of balance. Like you almost have to enjoy it for the sake of doing it, and then knowing, okay, now I'm going to take a break, and I need the break, because so I can go back and I can do it again. Oh, that's good. So no, those are good. So you found that one a little bit more difficult, the work-life balance one.
Me. And especially when you work from home.
Mm-hmm.
I do work as a translator and as a teacher. I go to school twice a week for a few hours, but then most of my work is at home. So, yeah.
Okay.
I was reading an article the other day about the fact that, well, there's no commuting when you work from home. So, and the actual benefits of commuting is that they add like that space of time in which you prepare yourself for working and you have some time to think about things. The same when you come back from work. So if you don't commute, maybe recreating that space of, I don't know, 15 minutes, recreating that when you wake up, maybe go for a walk or take time to have breakfast, and like all those things can be great for your mental health. So I think I'm going to apply that.
And it's probably year. And I think, yeah, some people are definitely, you definitely need that. You definitely need to give yourself that time too. Especially when the weather is so beautiful in Buenos Aires right now. Like, you're having some nice weather. You need to like get out and take a walk and enjoy it and reset everything, especially if you're working from home all the time. Like when I'm working, I have a short commute. It's not a super long commute, but it definitely takes me like a good 20 minutes, even once I'm there, to like figure out exactly like what needs to be kind of dealt with. You know what I mean? And like that, it's work. You're like, you already begun working, but it's something that you can't do very well prior to being at the work. So it's like you have to give yourself a break, to kind of, before you throw yourself
clarity.
Yeah. And also you have to like, it's a good self-assessment too for you to like, all right, how do I feel about the work? Is this the type of work that I've enjoyed? All right. Those are great answers. And yeah, so now it's your chance to torture me with these questions. I get what I pay for in terms of asking. I just thought it would. We'll see how deep I can
start with an easy one. I really like. I use this type of questions with my students all the time. I like to catch them off guard. Say like it's great to practice that to be spontaneous.
Yep.
That's a difficult word for me, because at exams they ask them questions, so they don't have much time to think, because it's time. It's like we have 1 minute to answer a few questions. So I usually throw these questions at them, and I'm so happy when they just have an answer to everything in English. Being Spanish speakers, that's great. So I really like this. I do it all the time. So let's start with an easy one, which is favorite type of weather.
Oh, I love weather, and it definitely affects my mood. Like I noticed that as part of this question was, how does, what's your favorite type of weather, and how's the question posed? I just want to, what's your favorite type of weather and how does it influence your mood? When I read that question, I definitely, as a New Englander, which is basically the northeastern part of the United States, oh my God, like I've grown up here, and, I've definitely like explored other parts of the country. So like, you go to Florida, or you go to more southern states, or Argentina or Peru. And like, I've been to both of those places, and oh my goodness, like for me, the weather, it's one of those things, like I don't have like an extended amount of experience with like knowing how much my mood would be improved if I were to be like in a warm weather climate for more than like 3 months. I definitely think that I would definitely enjoy it more. I really think there's like an amazing part to the consistency of warm weather, or like at least reasonably, nice weather. When I was a kid, I always really liked the heat, in the summer. Like I loved it. And, Now, the only thing that becomes into conflict with that is when you're in New England, we have like one of the most amazing fall seasons of anywhere in the country. So, as much as you can love the summer, we do recognize that seasons change, and like we're very lucky. I feel like in this part of that we get the months of September, October, and half of November are generally like really nice weather-wise as well. So as much as I'd love to complain about the winter and how horrible it is, I also realize like we have a pretty good summer and we also have like a pretty good fall. But then the snow falls. And I'll be honest, like we had snow this past week, and as soon as the snow falls, like my mood goes right down. Like I am like, I don't want to move. My body is literally physically more tired. Like I put up like some sort of mental block. Like I'm like, But yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I am more interested and think I would be more productive in a warm weather place. But we'll see. I don't know someday. But
someday.
How about for you? How about for you? I was
I like the sun. I like the sun. It really boosts my mood. When there's 2 or 3 days without the sun, I just really feel low. And I'm a team summer person.
Okay.
I like hot weather. Not super hot, obviously.
I like to be outside. Like I just like the freedom of being outside more. You know, like I don't.
Exactly.
It's cold here right now. It's like it's not. You know, it's like. Urgh.
Yeah, one of the worst things about the winter and harsh winters like you have is like getting up in the morning. Isn't it difficult to just get out of bed?
And it's dark. It's darker. We lose the hour.
And it's dark.
You know, like we're 2 hours different than you now, and
yeah.
And like I think it's okay when we're an hour different. Like, but then once we lose that other hour, it's almost like it's darker. You know, so I just recently started getting up even earlier in the morning, like 5:30, and like I'm realizing like that's the only good time to like work out or do something physically active, because if I get up and I move at like 5:30 and I actually do something productive, if I don't do it then, I'll never do it in the end of the afternoon, because if I try to like flip the schedule and do something in the afternoon, not only have I like gotten up, I've then had a day of work or whatever, then it's like, okay, how do I remotivate myself to then do more when it's dark again? And it's like, and with certain things, like you just want to do them because you haven't started your day and you haven't kind of burdened yourself with everything that you've been thinking about. But yeah, it's the darkness and the snow drives you crazy. And the worst part is that they say, well, once it turns into winter, it slowly starts to get lighter. But you're like, when it starts, it's the darkest. So yeah, there's no upside. It's people who tell you, the only people who tell you they like the snow are the people who ski. Ski.
Yeah.
Those are the people who like the snow. Otherwise, it's like
And also, it's nice, like at the beginning when it's white, it's all white, but then it becomes like really gross, doesn't it?
It's gross.
It's not always white and beautiful.
and
it becomes like dirty and.
Yeah, and it reminds you how cold it is. That's the worst part. So we had like a snowstorm, like 6 or 7 inches. You have to go shovel it. Then you shovel it or whatever, you move it. And then we had like a 50-degree day, which was like a really nice warm day to melt the snow. And it melted like 80% of the snow. But then we have like an entire week now where it's cold again. And we're driving, you like look around and it's like there's still snow. And it's like, it's the reminder.
Right.
It's cold.
I don't know if I could live in a place like that.
No one wants to really live here. The economy's good.
Okay.
The economy's good. The economy in New England is probably one of the stronger in the country, but I don't know how much that relates to our weather. It's definitely not a selling point to attract people to work.
That's why they are moving to, Florida, right?
They're trying.
They
They're
say
trying.
that's one of the.
It's cheaper. Yeah. We have the colleges. We have the colleges. That's our claim to fame up here near
Well,
Boston.
yeah.
So, all right. What are you going to tease me
I
with
would though.
next? What's that?
And the other one is a bit deeper, and it's what goals do you have for the next 5 years?
Oh, next 5 years. Okay. Next 5 years. Next 5 years is definitely like be as patient with myself as possible as I start to do, more, discovery of like making video content, helping, consult a little bit where I can, just try to learn more about global education as much as possible. I'm really intrigued with just all the things that are kind of impacting education as a whole, like all at once. Like there's just so many people who kind of have a blind spot right now, like with AI or machine learning, and education just moves so slowly that that I've decided just to make it more of my own goal to like stay as progressive with it as I can, because I feel like when you're working in it and you're kind of like in the day to day of it, like you're not really necessarily in a position where you're able to like comment or speak about those things that are going to ultimately change everything you're doing anyways. And it's very hard to make decisions like the right way because some of those things haven't necessarily impacting you right away, but you see it coming. So, I would like, within the next 5 years, I would definitely like to do, more expanded consulting with education. I'd like to, help schools in Argentina. I'd like to help schools, in other countries in South America. Like I feel very lucky in that I have a lot of experience, in the United States with scaling technology, and just because we have the bandwidth, because we have some of the backbone stuff, that all the other things become much easier to do. So like if you have a school that needs devices and how you integrate devices, like that's easy to do. Like if you have the right kind of mix of resources, infrastructure, training and support, it's not hard to do it, but those are big moving parts. So I would like to help people who need very specific parts in that process kind of put those pieces in place so that you can have more consistency and more people can benefit from enhanced use of technology. And I also think, part of my next 5 years is also just staying on top of all these changes that are happening in education and seeing where they take us, and I kind of move, within the next 5 years, I want to move into that kind of phase of my career per se, where it becomes more about, a little bit more about giving back, but still working, like I'm not like ready to like, just be like, oh, okay, I'm just going to like, willy nilly kind of just do whatever. I really think I can help people. And I want to do that. I want to travel more. I want to be able to help people who need certain things if I can. But if I can, I also want to learn from people, and what they have. And just because I think that's an important part too. Just learning and not just assuming,
Nice.
Everything is what you think it is, because it never is, No, that's a good question.
Right. Great answer. Yeah. Yeah. Great. And what about another one?
One more, maybe. We'll see how we do. What else is tease it out?
Since I talked about my comfort food, and then it became about mate and things. What about yours? What's your comfort food?
Oh, I definitely have a sweet tooth too. Oh, comfort food. Too many. Comfort food.
How would you describe comfort food? Because sometimes I try to explain it to my students.
Mm-hmm.
I it's something in the United States is very common with your comfort food like mac and cheese and things like
Hmm.
that. But I don't know how to explain it to Argentinians, for example. Like, how
Yeah.
would you explain it?
So you're right around why it's hard to explain, because it's hard to explain because at least in the United States, there's like two or three different perspectives on it. One of them is directly probably more from the south of the part of the United States, like Florida, Texas, the lower half of the. To them, comfort food is actually like a genre of food, kind of like in the area of barbecue and the mac and cheese and all of that. The barbecue in the south part of the United States is like amazing. It's really great. And what they do is they, beans and, mac and cheese, they have amazing barbecue. Um, as you go more north, comfort food kind of becomes maybe more like, what do you sit down on the couch with when you're watching like a movie, or, and oddly enough, like, we eat a lot of ice cream, up here in the north. Um, so definitely like, really good ice cream, like really good ice cream, comfort food. I love anything with peanut butter in it. That kind of is like sweet
Okay.
part. Yeah. Um, so peanut butter ice cream is really amazing. Um, I like a really sweet coffee, like a coffee with mocha, or any like a caffeinated beverage that's like warm, like like when I was in Argentina, I had like a cafecito with like, and I would put like a lot of sugar in it, or I'd sweeten it up quite a bit, or whatever. Like I love that.
With the leche or
Yeah,
just
yeah,
the coffee?
yeah,
Coffee.
coffee. Yep, both ways.
Yeah.
With milk, I guess more. I guess I like it better with milk and when they do the froth. Um, and then yeah, I think ice cream and really sweet coffee. Um, I think those would hit the spot pretty well. I got to get the
That's
sweet fix.
that's a coffee. That's another cultural difference. Did you notice that in Argentina we like to sit down for a coffee and we take our time, and when
Mm,
maybe even people go and like they have breakfast and they read the paper, or they sit and talk to someone, and we take
mhm.
our time to have
Yes.
our coffee. And it's a very and the like the cup, like the paper cup, is very American. I mean,
Hmm.
we do it now, but we like to sit down and have coffee in an actual cup.
Hmm.
uh,
It was a
don't
yeah,
see very often in the United States. Like in New York, for example,
right.
it's very rare that you sit
Yeah.
down for coffee and enjoy it.
No, it's
It's like everything is in a rush. You grab the cup and you just
I
go.
enjoyed that immensely when I was in Argentina doing that, because it was like I would go out, and then in the morning you basically have to sit and drink your coffee. You know, you'll order it,
Yeah,
and
you have to.
it's
Yeah,
and it made you appreciate it more and slow down more. Totally, and I loved
yeah.
it. And it wasn't like instantly in a paper cup, which was nice. It's like, here, I'm going to give you everything you need to enjoy your coffee, and you're going to sit and have your coffee, and you can
They
really
serve
appreciate
you
it.
the coffee. Like, yeah,
Yeah, it's
that is something. The coffee culture here is completely different. We sit down, and even if it's a little cup like this,
mm-hmm.
like cafecito, we call
Yep.
it like jarrito sometimes, café en jarrito, and you could actually like drink it up quickly,
Quick. Yeah,
but we don't. Like, we take our time.
and I like the coffee
And
with the what's the Italian ice cream? Like
S,
I love this one place.
which
It was
one?
kind of like a chain. What was it? I would. Um, there's a chain there. I know there's a couple locations. It was really good. And they do the coffee,
There are so many chains.
but they would do like the Italian, um,
Like espresso.
like a what?
Espresso? Espresso?
You could get espresso, but they would give you like a little scoop of ice cream with your coffee.
Ah, I know. I know what you mean. I know. Because they give you a scoop of ice cream because it's actually an ice cream shop.
Right.
That they started selling coffee, at an ice cream shop.
Mm-hmm.
They used to be just ice cream shops. And then they all incorporated ice cream. It's like McDonald's when they incorporated coffee. So that's why it goes with
it kind of gets you
to. It's not that common, actually.
Okay.
Just the ice cream. It's not that common.
I liked it because I put the ice cream in the hot coffee.
Yeah.
It was kind of
It's like cream,
yeah.
When they add cream to.
And they would give like this one place they gave me like chocolate too. They gave me like the ice cream, the chocolate, and I popped it in and was like
and they also, that's another thing. They always give you something with your coffee. Like you order a coffee and they bring you a cookie, or they bring you chocolate, or they bring you something to go with it. Even if you order media lunas, I don't know. They always give you something. And there's even these little little cookies that they make. There's a company that creates these little cookies that go with the coffee.
Wow.
And the different chains have the name of the chain and everything. So that's
I got accused yesterday. I was doing a spin class, like a workout spin class in the morning, and I took my iced coffee into the spin class, and I had it on the bike when I finished the spin class. And this girl came up to me at the end of the spin class. She's like, "That's so Massachusetts of you to have your Dunkin' Donuts coffee on your spin bike." I'm like, I felt like I felt like I was in some sort of weird commercial. But it was like, when you said like it's such a different coffee, like when you were saying like, you can sit in the street, like we'll be like, here, take your plastic cup and run, and then it's everywhere.
And taking it to the gym, no, that doesn't happen here. We don't take that.
Well, what happens is you're on the run all the time, and you're like, go, 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 and it's like, okay, my coffee, I'll use that as my workout drink.
You work out and you drink coffee and
just a little sip, a little caffeine. All right, those are fun. We'll have to keep trying some new ones. These are good questions, just to kind of like break it up. All right, let's get into the nitty gritty here. Okay. Here we go. So here's our poll questions, and we can talk about how we would answer these as well. So this is just for people who'd like to fill out the poll. This is the bit.ly podcast poll 1, Digital Futures Education. Decided to keep it simple with a Google form. I'm just going to see if I can zoom this in a little bit, just to make it a little bit bigger to read. So first question, and we can kind of like go through them ourselves. So I invite people here to go to the bit.ly, the podcast poll 1, and fill it out. I'll put the poll link in the video description, but feel free when you see this to fill out the poll. Let us know what you think of these questions, what you think of each one of these types of education questions. We're going to kind of kick them around ourselves. So Natalia, what is your preferred mode of learning, online, in person, or a hybrid model?
If you had asked me in 2019, I would have said now that I have experienced online, I would say hybrid. The best of both worlds, don't you think? What about you? Okay. What do you think?
You're right about thinking about like the different years. Like, I think that's the right way to think about this. I just had such a crazy hybrid experience. So, I guess hybrid, but hybrid where I have dedicated, like, I guess hybrid, but it needs to be hybrid in which I have an online portion and I maybe do that outside of class or
Mm-hmm.
synchronously with a teacher. Um, but I also have an in-person experience that doesn't fully rely on the technology, um, to kind of maybe like a flipped classroom type experience.
Yeah.
And I only say that because I think hybrid can be, described a lot of different ways. And what I noticed is what I didn't like about hybrid. Well, I would say not fully online because I think online is really good for like job training or specific skills or like upskilling
Upskilling.
yourself. I think you can get through content really quickly. I think
Yeah.
in person's great too, but
Mhm.
you lose some of the so there's some fantastic things that technology can add, and sometimes it's not added if it's fully in person.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
with hybrid, I like it the most, but I you want to make sure you get kind of the best of both worlds. Um,
Yeah.
and
Well done. I'm well organized.
yeah,
You know,
and we did
for
do.
it to work.
I did some hybrid learning or helped some teachers with hybrid learning. That was some students were home, some students were in person. It
Mm.
was a real challenge because the teacher
Yeah.
had to manage students at home and at person within the same time window. Um, and so that's the only reason I fear that hybrid model a little bit is if students have the option of being in person at this, what does it look like? I think the hybrid model is great if it gives enough time for each part. Um,
Exactly. Not at the same time.
mhm.
Not the two things at the same time, but some things are online, some things are in person. And it also depends really on the age of the students. As you said, adults. I mean, I keep on, I mean, I take courses, and to me, online are the best because they are really convenient. But for a younger student, I think they need that in person instruction.
Yes.
Yes, I
Yep.
mean, they need adolescents are more maybe they like online. At least my students like it online. They prefer it. But yeah, it depends on a lot of things.
Definitely. And
I think that
yeah,
could live. I mean, all of these systems could live.
live together a little bit.
Yeah, together. Yeah.
And definitely in the last, like, I remember I did a lot of online courses from 2008 to 2014. I feel old. Um, but even then, from 2008 to 2015, there was so much progress in terms of increasing engagement with students in online learning,
Hmm.
whether it was the types of questions or types of assessments that they started to give. At it made it like a valuable platform. I just think we've come a long way
Hmm.
in about those 10 years, that really makes a big difference. So I don't feel like now, it used to be probably, if you ask someone 5 to 7 years ago or pre-pandemic, you would definitely have a different answer about
Hmm.
your preferred model.
Hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Natalia, how much on a scale of 1 to 5, zero being not at all, and five being, I meant that should be a five, to a great extent,
Mhm.
do cultural differences impact the effectiveness of educational technologies?
Mm, I would say they do affect maybe a four.
Okay.
They do. We, I mean, we use technologies. I mean, if you think of other countries that they don't even have some social media platforms, and I don't know other countries, but I guess they use technology differently, or they rely on it on a different level.
You're
So I
right.
guess there should be some, I mean, difference
Yeah,
in how much they impact.
yeah. because
Sure.
I read this. I picked this question after I looked at one of the articles, one of the websites we were going to look at. Like this kind of popped out to me as like a question to ask because so I was interested. I was just intrigued by your answer because you're right. Like I wasn't sure where to start with this one because, but you kind of I think you hit it on the head with each country has kind of a different end goal or or an idea of what the end goal would be for themselves with the use of the educational technology. So I think that is, some of the choices in those end goals come from their cultural differences, right? Um,
Hmm.
it reminds me of when I was making that video about Argentina. Not, I don't know if it was exactly about Argentina, but I was reading the research on the one-to-one program, the Conectar Igualdade,
Hmm.
uh, and they talked a lot about the teacher training and the students basically feeling as though they weren't the teachers weren't getting enough training to use the technology at a level that could engage the students. Now
Hmm.
that's a big city. I'm sure that happens everywhere. But if if culturally you're moving, like for example, like I did some research on Colombia, their government movement is much more towards workforce,
Oh.
workforce preparation, like supporting learners who are probably post high school, secondary, in escalating their career options, as opposed to maybe being able to have the infrastructure in place to support the educational technology at lower levels. But how do you get the workforce
Hmm.
to at a level? So I definitely, that's two different to me. Like, we'll look at something with Argentina. Like, you, your country seems a little bit more focused at the lower levels at trying to, you know, bridge that gap. Um, so it's definitely like the effectiveness is cultural and economic too.
Yeah.
Um,
Too.
can you think of anything specific to Argentina related to the cultural difference that changes the effectiveness of a tool? Maybe even if it's language related.
Um, Specifically, what about? I don't know if it's connected, but what about access to internet?
Yeah,
I mean, also, if a country is so big like I mean, Argentina is a big country.
yeah.
Small countries, well, the U.S. is a big country, but I guess is it well connected? Is there internet everywhere?
For the most part, I mean, there are parts of from what I understand is like when we during the pandemic, like that kind of was a big stress test of like who was connected and who wasn't because the push to remote, of course. I think there were some. I think everywhere is potentially connected. I think there's some places in the middle of our country, in the Midwest, where kind of some students went off the map per se. But I think some of the reasons why they went off the map was there is there are geographical regions in which there's not high speed connections that that our federal government's been working on trying to build out in the last like 10 years. So every I would say safely maybe 80 to 90% of our country is connected at a level that can support educational technology at home. But then,
Right.
just like with Argentina, it's do they have devices at home? Do they have access to a device they can
Right.
use for learning at home?
Right.
And is the bandwidth enough? Or, um, yeah, I think the connectivity level, I think, how about with Argentina? Like, I mean, I know you have larger cities like Cordoba and Buenos Aires and
Yeah.
Rosario. Like those are essentially connected. How is it in
Yeah.
between?
of course, I mean, big cities are connected, but I'm worried about like small towns,
Yeah.
like, I mean, they go to school in a horse. I mean, they ride the horse to get to their schools, and
Hmm.
so I think there's inequality in that those areas, right?
Hmm.
So it must, what I mean, it's a cultural difference is when with a big country like Argentina, it's going to be much more difficult than like Uruguay. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe Uruguay is a small country and it's connected, so educational technologies can be used more effectively and they reach everyone, right?
Yeah.
But yeah.
And also the value, I think, you know, Argentina's having a tough time with their economy. I
Hmm.
think there's the value of learning and going to work, and talked a little bit about this before, like, at certain points, it's more valuable for a student to just go straight into the workforce to provide for their family as opposed to,
Yeah.
do additional schooling or take an online course because they might have the time to, or just even knowledge of some of that stuff existing. Um,
Hmm.
it's interesting how close culture starts to kind of impact with actual um, reliance on the technology. I mean, like there's definitely one of the things I thought about with that question before we kind of roll to the next one is like um, I looked at this question after we had looked at some of the articles we were looking at, and it made me think like, are we building also educational technology tools that are supportive of the equity related to the culture? So
Hmm.
I'm almost kind of glad we're not like finding immediate issues with the cultural components. Like, maybe I'm sure you could recognize some inconsistencies within the translations or translation tools
Hmm.
and how they're built into certain software. Like, how do you feel across the board when you see software with their translation tools? Do you feel like relatively confident when you see something embedded within a piece of software?
Mostly they are machine translated, aren't they?
Mm,
There's so much content that and that's another thing. Like, of course, you can use AI for translation, but it depends. It depends on the content, right?
mm,
So, of course, content in the world cannot be translated by humans because it's too much, and it would be too expensive. But I don't. I don't see. I don't see they use. Maybe they are using machine translation for
mm-hmm.
content, which I don't know about you, but I I I, I don't think it's okay to put out content
Consistently
without
machine translated.
directly after a machine translation.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know, there could be some wrong information, some bias or whatever. Uh, I guess there's always should be like the the human eyes before that goes live.
Right.
Um, that's my opinion. Also with I read the other day that Duolingo,
Yeah.
the app, that lay off some human translators, because they were using more AI. So that means that a lot of the content they are putting out for people to learn different languages is not being supervised
Vetted.
by
Yeah.
native people. So how do I know that I'm learning like stuff that it's actually
Relevant. Yeah. And
relevant, that you actually say? Um,
you make a good
that
point too, like about it's because like you could have a website, and with the website, you could have people choose a language option. But if the language option is predetermined on the browser to use AI to translate, and then imagine if there's like a generative layer of AI behind it, if something's wrong, it's just going to get processed as wrong, like
Right.
continually, like it,
Yeah.
unless there's like the only thing saying it's wrong right now is the AI. I mean, a human can
Right.
say it's wrong, but then if the AI is convinced something right is wrong, something wrong is wrong, it's just going to keep
Hmm.
perpetuating it, right? Um,
Hmm.
so it's,
Yeah.
yeah,
Not
doing,
completely against. I think there's a place for it, but some things can, some things shouldn't be just directly sent live and sent to people like that. I was
especially
reading
this
the other
early.
day.
Yeah.
I was reading an article on an Argentinian news portal, and I quickly realized it was machine translated. But that wasn't the real problem. The real problem was that the words they were using, it was about autism, and they were using like really uh, stereotypical ways of, and I'm wrong. They were using
Mhm.
words because obviously a person didn't read this. Didn't read that, I'm sure, or someone at least with knowledge of the condition didn't read it, and they put it out. They put it was there for everyone to read, and it was um, it could really damage someone who is or a parent maybe with a kid with
Right.
that condition. We're using words that were not appropriate
Wow.
for about the condition, right? So it got
Yeah.
me thinking, like, this can't be put up like it's safe, don't worry. It's like,
Mhm.
it's not a video game, or it's a medical stuff, like, well,
Right.
it really
Right.
got me thinking, like,
And it's
it shouldn't
gonna
be.
and that's gonna keep coming. I mean, that's a lot of doctors are afraid of that. Like, also being the future is these people are able to get these diagnoses even faster, and
And people
they
already
get
go to Google for their diagnosis. Imagine that things are translated without
for them.
medical translators, people having a look. So imagine just people self-diagnosing things. Yeah,
So,
should be
so
really
you're
careful.
you're you're a four. Okay. How
Yeah,
much do
what's like,
a four? I would say how much do cultural differences impact the effectiveness? Um. Oh, that's a hard one for me. Actually, I'm between like a 5 and a 3. Part of me says 5 in that I think it's something that, and it's not necessarily that there's like an immediate impact, but it's like I wouldn't want to take my eye off the ball with this. Like it. I feel like cultural differences need to be like embedded in the way you measure the effectiveness of the ed tech. Um, and so I'm starting to think the more I learn about digital equity that it's like a 5 because
mm-hmm,
there's stuff in there that I don't understand. And
mm-hmm,
if I assume it's less, then I kind of start to look at things like I might not be looking at everything I need to be looking at. Um,
mm-hmm,
then there's part of me that's like it's a 3 because maybe the tools and differences in culture, like maybe technology's bridging a lot of those already. Maybe it's through translation, maybe it's the interface, maybe technology is this great bridge that does do a lot and allows us
mm-hmm,
to kind of maybe see things that are gaps. So like I'm just kind
mm-hmm.
of like, I mean, it's not a not at all. And then when it's a great to a great extent, I'm kind of thinking it's more of like a boy, I wouldn't want to miss something if I was like evaluating a tool. Um, but even like your issue with translation, like looking back at that, that's automatically a 5 because it's I'm trying to make sure that it's done the right way.
Yeah,
So if I had
yeah.
to
And
pick,
those,
yeah,
like, those tools should be localized. Have you heard about localization of, yeah, of apps? They should be adapt to the local market,
mm-hmm.
because not
Yes,
not the educational systems are different. The subjects we study are different. The way we learn maybe is different. Maybe in India they learn differently. So everything should be localized, right? So
You're
these
right.
educational techniques should be localized.
You're right. And I was looking at some learning management systems this past week, and there's this one BYJU that's, I think, from India, and it's becoming like very global. Are you familiar with that?
Yes, I am.
What,
I am. Mm-hmm.
How do you say the name?
I don't know.
Baiju?
Baiju?
Something. But it's very independent, though, right? The resources are like kind of like personalized in terms of the approach with the resources and the students, and like kids can go there and find things. But I'm wondering how much of the, I mean, I think there's a lot to learn from each other with learning styles and how training is. But there's also like, what should we also keep our mind on? All right, Natalia. So social media into education curriculum.
I would quickly say no. No. Is YouTube social media?
I would say yes, only because of the commenting features.
Yeah. So YouTube, I think yes. I think there's a lot of educational value. But all the other platforms, I don't think it's necessary. All kids already spend enough time on social media. Why? I mean, I don't know. What do you think?
The digital literacy piece is the only thing that I'm like kind of concerned about. Like there's two parts of this that, there's the immediate answer, no, like the value of social media, like as a, like the content of TikTok, right? Like there's like TikTok content, like, all right, that's in the no pile. And then there's how it's integrated. So in terms of like a student's like literacy around, evaluating sources and evaluating things they see online, yes. And their ability to evaluate digital resources or digital media, and like, okay, as a social media, I need to evaluate this resource as maybe, and this is definitely like an American thing now that, from our politics, but evaluating, campaigns from presidents and also ways social media has been used to, send whatever type of message. And then also just embedding it in a student in a very young age, being able to evaluate a tool for its effectiveness and relevancy. Can I use this for a research project? The other part is I do think that the more I learn about YouTube and the more I learn about social media as a whole, like, I mean, I was a high school teacher in 2013, 14, 2008 through 13, when YouTube was just like getting its ground and feet wet with everything, and people were, kids were really getting into it. That was, for me, was such a learning experience watching students learn that. And then everything's transitioned into such a different thing. I do think there's an incredible, I did some research on growth mindset this past week, and the research that I did on growth mindset kind of came out with this marketing mindset and this entrepreneurship mindset. And I'd have to say, like, those two mindsets are, like, I think important, especially to a future where, people might have to have a better control and understanding of their understanding of how to use social media for marketing, kind of to have a job. So I definitely think if the marketing piece can be taught in an effective way at like maybe a high school level, but it can't be as kind of loose as it is now. Like, I think there's a lot of stuff to YouTube that's very specific. There's a lot of stuff to other platforms like Facebook ads or other types of social media that
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot to learn and is a valuable skill. And you, a student could use that in their future without, so having it in the curriculum might actually engage some students, but it has to be taught in a way that provides them like in an entrepreneurship course or something like that.
You're right. Yeah, you're right. About using it as a tool for your personal brand, that could be, that could be very good. I hadn't thought about that. So yeah, I like that.
Yeah, there's just so much there, that, and I don't know how the economy is going to change, especially with AI. I'm a little worried about where people are going to find opportunities. And the sooner we teach kids to be able to, like, I heard a speaker, I really listened to Alex Hermosi a lot on YouTube. He's like this business guy and younger business guy. And he made this really good point about people and their personal growth. He's like, a lot of people decide to go into business for themselves in their mid 40s. Some people start when they're 30. Some people start when they're 20. Basically, the age in which you decide to commit yourself to whatever type of thing you're going to learn about, that's the age where you start to grow. If you start, we have kids who, started doing what they're doing 13 in terms of social media. Like, they're 10 years ahead of the people who started even when they're 20, who are now 30, and so there's these huge gaps, but also opportunities that individuals have taken with their own self-learning that have proved really valuable for them, and the economy's changing really quickly. All right. I was curious about this one. This was the first one I picked. I was thinking about you with you like to read, you were saying. Ebooks or physical books for educational purposes?
Well, for education, my answer would like, why choose? Why would I have to choose them? Can we use both?
Good answer. It's expensive to do real books.
Ebooks? Real books?
Well,
yeah, you're right.
Well, right. But here's the other side. I used to do a lot of OER stuff. People say it's expensive, but updating the content on an ebook regularly enough to keep it relevant is also expensive. So people like to say immediately, like, oh, the digital version. And now when you buy an ebook, they're selling you software as a service too, where like you need to purchase the digital ebook every 3 years. It's not like you have the book on your shelf anymore. But I like your answer. Why choose? If you had to pick one.
I teach English languages, so for language teaching, I like the physical book. I like kids like having something in their hands, but I don't know, for practicing, writing down, like reading, and also just to take a break from, the eyes to look at a page for once in a while. But yeah, they are expensive. Here, they are really expensive. English books are really expensive here and difficult to get to sometimes. So when it was the pandemic, we started using the ebooks. Well, they worked, but the kids had the physical books. I used the ebook in my classes, but they did have their books, their own books.
Their own books. So they had both, a little bit of both.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of like how you would use it, and I'm trying to like just put myself in your place. I know that's impossible, but like some ebooks that I've seen, I'm just trying to make an argument for the ebook a little bit. I just haven't bought a lot of physical books myself in the last couple. I feel like I read less books now that physical books are less common. or I
Mm-hmm.
haven't been like bringing them into my life as much. And kind of when someone hands me a physical book, sometimes I kind of go like, I kind of like, do I,
Like,
that, I'm kind of like think twice about like committing the time to it. But I also don't
right.
know I also don't know if like when I go online, read an ebook, like, am I reading, like, is my brain going to mush because I'm not reading like a nice long form text about a topic? Like
Mm-hmm.
maybe I'm just digesting a bunch of like website junk, and like like my mind is
Reading
now.
articles, right?
Yeah. I mean, the best ebooks I've seen are like ones that have really nice search indexes, and they also have
Mm-hmm.
like the audio built into the vocabulary. So like if I click on a term, like I can hear it spoken.
That's
Um,
great. That's a great
but
feature.
but they're expensive. Those types are the most expensive types. Like they're generally from Pearson or large ed tech companies, and they get old very, very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
True.
and I'm wondering if there's a difference in the way these books are written now, knowing that they can be updated more quickly, or do they need to be updated more quickly? Like I'm wondering,
They sh-
like,
they should have a different approach.
right.
Yeah.
Like I'm wondering if like you used to get a better book when you got the physical book, and it
Mm-hmm.
covered more concrete topics that didn't change. And is there a
Mm-hmm.
temptation now to cover topics that might change because they're
Mm-hmm.
changing, or are we like trying to make them change, or do they need to change? I'm just thinking like, what I'm saying? Like, didn't it feel like you got more out of a book? It used to be like, here's my book. This is the amount of information I need on a topic.
Yeah.
Uh, I think with
Limited.
I
Yeah.
I hate the tech books because I have like a wall of tech books that like all of them are useless because everything changed every like 3 or 4 years. And I think I got
Right.
burned out on reading a little bit from that too. And you start reading too project based. Like, here's a project. I'm going to read my way through it, apply the code. Like, at least from a technical standpoint, a little bit like language, I'm sure like you'd read and then you'd extract what you needed to know to do an activity. With the tech books, it was like you'd read, you'd then have to type in the computer like the code to practice, and then you'd run it. But
Right.
there were so many issues with writing, with the text in representing what you were supposed to type correctly, or the interface in the
Right.
computer, that once everything went online and you had like a virtual environment to type programming code into, like the book became like useless. It was like, because it was so much
Also.
more hands on. It was like, here, you want to do this hands on process. But the book forced
Mm-hmm.
you at least to think about the process page by page. And if there was a
Yeah.
topic that needed to be introduced, you could introduce it.
Also, it makes us like more lazy, because I love the feature that you can look for a word, like
Yeah.
search for a word and you quickly search. And then obviously with a physical book, you can't do that. So it makes you like
Look.
read and reread and maybe more things. So it's more hard work at some point. So maybe it's better for the brain
Right.
because
Right.
it's harder to remember things and, but well,
No, you're
it's,
right. And in a perfect world, I think we'd have the best of both worlds. Like, you'd have basically a physical version of the ebook that you would be forced to look at, because otherwise you might not look at everything if you were on your computer.
yeah, imagine first graders. I don't like the fact that they just, everything is through the screen. I mean,
You're right.
I don't like it. I like it that they can experience a book, right? Like a book, and carry their books, and
Yeah.
yeah,
And you make
I
a
don't
good.
know. Well, ebooks have been around for a very long time, and they still haven't replaced the book.
Right. But
They
you
haven't.
this and the same issue you are saying about with the little kids and not having like that experience and it all going through the screen. I have the same issue with community college students. So so I'll teach a course that has an ebook, and for years they've offered a hard copy book, basically of the ebook at the same time. And I'll tell students, and this is kind of an unfortunate part of it, it ends up being like a financial cost, is they'll buy the course and they need to do the course and the simulations and the trainings for this $100 cost on an online platform. Well, then they have this option of buying the book additionally for $60. And some of them want the book because they're very familiar, they want that experience. And I'll be honest with them, like I'll say, but just so you know, you don't have to buy the book too. There's an e-text version within the course, and some of them want to buy it, and I kind of get stuck between because I mean, yes, I want to help the student like have the best experience, and if having an extra book or reading through it will help them, great. But their work and like what they're going to be ultimately graded on is actually their ability to do it online. So like I feel bad sometimes because at the end of the day, like these are students who are often working on like their study skills and just becoming better students too. And I feel like if I tell them, like if they start to use the regular book too much, like sometimes that's like, I feel like I'm saying, hey, take 3 hours and do something other than what's going to actually be what you're going to be graded on in terms of like the amount of time. You know what I mean? Like if you said every week you need to study 3 hours in order to be successful. Well, the student who is effective at using the ebook is going to be able to manage that environment a little bit better, where someone who still wants both is probably going to have to spend dedicated time in both spaces. And at the end of the day, like that might take away from their ability to do as well, because they're not necessarily spending time on like the online assessment, which, like I get, that's like a little thing that's happened to me that I've been a little frustrated with over time, because it's like, you want to be able to recommend the right thing, but I also want to be honest with them and say, you're going to be assessed on your ability to do the right thing on the computer.
On the computer.
But they want that reaffirmation and that feeling that maybe they've gotten through another learning experience with a physical book. Or they're trying to have more comfort from something that maybe they're not as comfortable learning online, as much as they would think.
Yeah.
So those are some good topics. I liked your why choose. It's because that's true. I like that. That was good. So if people fill this out, feel free to put the email and get the responses. So you can we'll show the responses on next time we get together, but it'll be interesting to see what we get from feedback from people. I want to ask us to put this out there and see what people say. And if you want to go ahead and do that, it's the bit.ly, bit.ly, don't forget the .ly, podcast poll 1. All right. I'm going to end the recording. It's good. So now we want to do a little book share, and I have not been reading a lot lately, but Natalia has been checking out a book that she introduced to me the last time we talked. Can you say the name in Spanish? I'll screw it up if I try to say it.
In English, hay un solo camino, la educación. There's only one way, education, and there's the challenges for 21st century Argentina in terms of education, obviously. And it's a compilation of talks by people from the government, by people from, and they took different provinces, like small towns, and how they approach different things, special education, dropout, a lot of different topics. and points of view. And it's great when you read about people's points of view or experiences. So I've learned a lot. One day I'll just put everything nicely and just grab my favorite parts, things that I learned. It's a very good book if you are interested in the future of education and how the way we know education, it's obsolete. We need to find a new way to teach kids.
And you come to the book being the book's structured as like a series of talks. So
yeah,
divided
into topics.
Do you feel like
basically talks? They're very short.
Do they all have the same theme in that they kind of end up making you feel like something needs to change, or do you come to that conclusion? They kind of highlight.
Come to the conclusion that there's a change. There needs to be change. We were kids. It's not the same world kids are living now. It's not the same, right? So, I mean, when I was my daughter's age, there are a lot of things that didn't even exist as for technology, right? And a million things didn't exist, and they exist now. So I can only start primary school, elementary school, some things need to adapt. And technology is one of them, right? Like the responsible use of screens,
Also, yes.
Because they will.
And
they will.
And everything's going to change so quickly. Oh. No, thank you for your time today. You gave me way more time than I deserved.
To learn from the session. So the word career in English is used for professional career, so all the work that you do through your life. But in Spanish, we also use the word carrera for the program that we choose to study at university. So when you're asking someone, what did you study at university, or what program did you do, you could ask, ¿qué carrera hiciste? Like, carreras are the list of programs, right? So whenever you are speaking in English about university, remember not to use career, use degree program. But when you're talking about your expectations or what you want to do with your life, that's your career. But in Spanish, if you are talking about the degree that you did, you can say carrera. Hice una carrera, like I did a career, or I studied a career at university.
Es una carrera. No, that's good. And
es una carrera. Una buena carrera. Right. It's a difference but Spanish speakers make mistakes when they speak in English, and when they want to talk about their studies at university, they use career when they shouldn't. They shouldn't use that word for the study they do, for the course they do, right? That's a little grammar.
And what we'll do is maybe next time I'll think of some interview questions would be interesting. Just if different types of terms that come up in interview questions might be interesting for us to explore at some point in the future. But
yeah.
Thank you very much. No, thank you for all your knowledge. Thank you for your info, and I'll be in touch soon. And
thank you for having me.
No, this is good. Always a good conversation. So I appreciate all your time.
Yeah, always good.
Always good.
Thank you so much. Have a great Sunday.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.